Okay, this is John Black, Super Chemist. Our last playlist was called BIPOC. This playlist is going to be called War. And at first here I'm going to label it Ukraine and Israel. But I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to go and do another, the matriarchy and the patriarchy. What's the difference? But then sooner or later I'm going to go into what's going on with the world, man. I'm going to lay it all out from start to finish. What's going on? Why the world is going to crap? Okay. But before I get to that playlist, then I'm going to come back to this war thing, because when I have to talk about what's going on, I'm going to have to come, I'm going to have to come back to this and, give you more information about other wars that's happening now. And I mean, it's happened in the past that led up to this debacle that's going on with the world falling apart. So let's start with Ukraine. Let me see what I got written down here. Okay, so first of all, the narrative is that Putin's a bad guy. He wants to take over the world. And if you let him give him an inch, he'll take it. He'll take the whole world, man. And he wants to enslave everybody. And he's a horrible guy. And I'm sure he is a horrible guy. I'm not debating that. Although I don't really know. You know what I mean? Because all I know is what I hear, and what I hear is from the news when it comes to Putin. I can't. You know what I mean? But yeah, obviously he's done some horrible stuff though. So they're saying that he's Hitler, and Ukraine is just this democracy. They're a better democracy than our democracy. They're just so great. You know what I mean? They just represent democracy. Okay. Now let's keep in mind, Ukraine for decades, decade after decade after decade, has been known as the most corrupt country in the world. Literally, by everybody, not just me or the United States. Everybody says they're the most corrupt country in the world, and they're the most Nazi country in the world. And in the history of the world, except for Nazi Germany during the 40s, obviously. I want you to notice, if you might watch these clips on the news, but if you watch the whole videos of these, of these videos from Ukraine, you will notice that there's not really that many swastikas, but the SS sign that's for the Secret Service, not the Secret Service, for the I forget what it's called, but it was the elite. It would be like the Gestapo. It was even more elite than the Gestapo. But anyways, that symbol is literally like plastered all over Ukraine, like literally. You can't say. That's why they only show you some little clips, because if they show you any more than a minute panning through the city, or panning on the soldiers, or panning on anything, there's graffiti, tattoos on the military, the Ukraine military, tattoos, badges like sewn onto their shirts or whatever, pins, like I said, and the graffiti all over the country, man. I mean, the country is like Nazi personified. Okay, like no other country has been as Nazi as Ukraine, other than Nazi Germany during the 40s, right? So you got Ukraine is a country that's right next to Russia. The southern part of the Donbass area, I think it's called. Where did I put it down here? We'll just call it the Donbass. Here it is, Donbass. Yeah, Donbass area is southern Ukraine. All those people speak, 95% of them speak Russian. They're all Russian. You know what I mean? Even though they're Ukraine citizens, you know what I mean, according to the border and everything. And they are protected under the Ukraine government. But none of them actually speak Ukraine, right? Probably from some previous wars where they, Ukraine got some of Russia or something like that. You know what I mean? And so the citizens there got switched over from Russian to being Ukrainian. Okay. So now, what do we got here? We got Ukraine is not part of NATO. They are not our allies. Okay. They're not our allies in any way, shape, or form. And not only that, they're a Nazi country. And not only that, they're the most corrupt country in the world. Okay, for decades. So anyways, we had 3 treaties with Russia, right? 3, not 1, not 2, 3 treaties with Russia, okay? Meaning NATO, the United States, etc., okay? Now, why I'm saying bringing NATO up is because they're the army, right? So what did we do? 3 times we say, all Russia wanted was they wanted NATO to stop moving their armed forces and weaponry and, equipment towards Russia. You know what I mean? Like, that seems like, you're not stepping over your bounds asking for that. That sounds like a common sense, normal thing to ask for. Stop bringing your entire army closer and closer to my border. You know what I mean? That's not. The United States actually has the whole hemisphere. That means half of the planet is considered our buffer zone, meaning no one on this, in the South America, Central America, Mexico, Canada, no one can come over here and be putting, like it's our enemy, like Russia. They can't come in and be putting their weapons and their military lands and, coming in with military equipment and doing that. We have a whole half of the planet we expect no one to come in with their armed forces or anything like that, right? And start making bases and stuff like that. Okay. All Russia wanted was Ukraine to be a buffer. That's all they wanted. One country to be a buffer. Well, we want the entire half a planet to be a buffer. But somehow he's a horrible man because he wanted a one country buffer between our forces, meaning NATO forces, and, his country, right? So we made a treaty with him. We won't advance anymore. We'll just stick where we're at. And what do? Right after we signed a treaty with Putin, Russian, right? We advance our forces, start making bases closer to his country, you know what I mean? And then what happens? So obviously Putin gets pissed off, man, because you lied, man. We lied to him. So he says, okay, let's do another treaty. Nope, don't advance your military and your weapons and your bases. Don't bring them any more closer to my country. United States and NATO agreed. Okay, yeah, that sounds psychological. That's no big deal. And what do? We sign the treaty, then we almost instantly break it. And we move our advanced NATO forces and bases and weaponry even further towards Russian thing. We did it 3 times, not 1 time, not 2 times, 3 times, okay? Now, come on, man. And then they start talking about, well, we're going to put Ukraine, the most corrupt Nazi country, and we're going to let them join NATO, right? And Russia was like, no, man, don't do that. We don't want that to happen. And then at the same exact time, Biden goes over, because the Ukraine government was actually bombing their own people in southern Ukraine, okay? But they were just doing it at a slow rate. It wasn't really that big of a deal, you know what I mean? And then, because this happens all the time, man, you know what I mean? Like, China has like 2 or 3 borders where they just lob stuff bombs back and forth, between China and these other couple countries that border with them. just in certain areas. And they just constantly, it's no big deal. No one really dies really, but for some reason they still, because they want the border to be 1 mile down or half a mile down or 2 inches down, so they're gonna just lob bombs back and forth. You know what I mean? And they do that for decades, man, decades. You know what I mean? What's the point? Why are you wasting all that ammunition and bombing things? Why are you wasting all that money? You're not accomplishing anything. You know what I mean? So it was no big deal because they weren't. But see, at the same exact time we were trying to get Ukraine into NATO, 3 times breaking their treaty, then Biden goes over and forces Zelensky to step up the bombings in southern Ukraine, meaning, hey, make it into a real, where you're actually killing a bunch of people off. You know what I mean? You're not just screwing around. Just once in a while, you lob a bomb over there and it's an empty lot. No, start killing people by the mass. By masses. Thousands and thousands each day. Just genocide them, basically. You know what I mean? But what happened here? Something happened. Okay, still going. Is it going? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So anyways, Biden forces him to, really start genociding southern, the non-Ukraine speaking people that spoke Russian, but they were still Ukraine citizens. And so what did the people do in the Donbass area? These Russian people that were under Ukraine government, their own government is trying to kill them all. So since they used to be Russian, back in the day, right? That's why they all speak Russian still. They petition, the Russian government. Hey, Putin, help us, man. Come help us, save us. They are killing us. They're genociding us, man. You know what I mean? And Putin, guess what? He voted against it. He said, no, I don't think it's worth it to go over there and get into a war just to help you people out. You are Ukraine citizens, and I don't care about you, man. But the Russian Congress are the ones who overrode Putin's decision, and they are the ones who forced, sent the Russian army into Ukraine and started this war, right? Because they were forced, basically. But the whole thing is it wasn't Putin. Putin didn't even want to do it. He voted against it. If it was up to him alone, there would be no war in Ukraine. Because he knows it's just a joke. They're just forcing him into it. But anyways, so the U.S. and NATO keeps breaking 3 treaties right in a row, moving their people, their armed forces, closer and closer, all their guns and tanks and all their bombs, building bigger, closer bases, and all this, bringing in thousands of NATO armed forces. They just keep breaking their word. Then they're like, that buffer you have in Ukraine, no, we're going to take that away and let them join NATO. Then they start killing all the Russians that used to be Russian in southern whatever. Now, and then Putin still doesn't want to go to war. His Congress does it. So what does that tell you, man? We started the war. We started it. Like, do you need to know any more? I mean, you can obviously see that we started it. Let's see what else I got to say about these. And also they had at least twice, but it might have been 3 or 4 times. I don't know. That it's hard to whatever. But at least twice, I know for a fact that Putin and Zelensky had a written out treaty that they both wanted to sign, and Biden blocked it. Biden basically said, "You don't sign that, Zelensky, or we'll never help you again, man. And we'll just throw you to the Russians, and we'll tell basically Russia to attack you after that." You know what I mean? It's like, so they keep the money going, right? The war going. 90% of the money. All right, that's it for this one. Oh, let's see here.